Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be discussing The Flash 811 titled Resurrection. This will be my full review of it. If you enjoy the video, go ahead and down below, subscribe if you're new, notifications on. This is a really damn good episode, so we're going to get right into it. It opened up with a flashback with Ronnie and Caitlin in Star Labs. Ronnie got injured from working on the particle accelerator. Caitlin was patching Ronnie up. And that was pretty much around the time when they started dating, or they were about to start dating. And they're talking about the particle surge. This is like in 2012. And so they've been working on it for several years, as we knew. And they're talking about how it will change the world and all that, which it obviously did, just not the way they were expecting. Then we go back to present day. And we're back in Caitlin's apartment where the Flame said something that Ronnie said. And Caitlin obviously believing that this Flame is Ronnie. Ronnie mentioned an us. And that Ronnie needs Kate to save them. Now, Caitlin didn't mention this at all. But for those who are paying attention, he said us. And that she has to save them. As in, it's not just Ronnie that's something in there. This is something else. So right away, knowing that, I was like, okay, this isn't Ronnie. This is something else. This thing is playing Caitlin. That was going through my head when he said that, because I was like, us, them, who the hell is us? Like, you would hear, like, this thing saying us, you know what I mean? Like, if it was Ronnie, he would say, help me save me. Or, help save me, not help save us. Who the hell is us? Like, that made no sense. And if that was actually Ronnie. So I was kind of suspicious from the get-go from that line. But we go to Coast City following the events of Iris having a seizure from the time sickness and Tina's mother being transported away, or wherever the hell she went. And Sue got near Iris with her phone and it just disappeared. The time thing went away, or made a phone go away. And we go back to Team Flash, and they're working the case. They found 6 more victims, I think, or several more victims from Jones' Seal's work. And this has been going on for 6 months. The Flame has been killing people for 6 months. Now, you have to remember, Armageddon happened, the timeline changed and all that. Barry's the only one that remembers it. So, it's not really hard to believe that, okay, we're dealing with this Flame that managed to keep out of sight for 6 months until a couple weeks ago, because all this was going on. Team Flash was distracted. There's no reason for them to even really think about a sentient being killing innocent people. I mean, I'm sure Bear was on these cases, but they had no connection that these were abnormal fires like the other victims, or any victim was. The only reason it happened was because someone reported it, and then they started following it, and this is how where we're at now. Caitlin recognized all of the victims. The Black Flame, assuming it's Ronnie, has been killing these victims to try to get Caitlin to get her attention. Now, this part kind of got at me a little bit. Why didn't Caitlin recognize them before? She recognized people at the bar where she and Frost had that double date at. Her yoga instructor was on there. Which was mentioned in a previous, when that one girl died, that the person was a yoga instructor. And so why didn't Caitlin connect the dots on some level looking at those pictures, because she saw them, that I'm pretty sure she did, unless I'm just remembering incorrectly, but you would think Barry would show the victims to all of Team Flash. Oh, I guess Caitlin was gone. I just remember that she was gone for a little while when the killing started. So I guess they didn't show her that. But you would think they would. I don't know. It was just kind of nitpicking me a little bit. Like, why didn't she recognize that earlier? Why now? After all these, I guess, days. Because it's been 24-hour period between each episode. Like it was this one between the last one. Caitlin is convinced and is telling Team Flash that the fire is Ronnie. Bear doesn't believe it, and neither does Team Flash. They don't think the Flame's actually Ronnie. Barry thinks the Flame is playing Caitlin to get her to do whatever the Flame wants. The fire's radiation, and Caitlin did tests to see, because she wanted proof, the fire's radiation can only be picked up from a singularity. So when Ronnie, quote-unquote, died, assuming he didn't die, or didn't make it out of the singularity, he became that thing, whatever the hell it is, a flame, whatever you want to call it. So that's how they're connecting it. Kate doesn't think Ronnie's in control of the fire, and she thinks he's been killing to survive, which is what we've been saying all this time. He needs to feed off anger and grief. He's killing to live. If he doesn't kill, he's gonna die. And, you know, she wants to use a splicer that was used on Ronnie and Stein and Jax to help them become Firestorm and control the Firestorm Matrix to save Ronnie. And they're going to use one of Ava's chips to put in the splicer to make that work even better, so it doesn't need two hosts. It just needs one, which inevitably would be Ronnie. Barry's worried Caitlin is getting set up and that she's going down this path that will not end well at all. Caitlin really believes the fire is Ronnie. She's convinced pretty much. And Caitlin goes to tell Marks about everything relating to working with Team Flash and Ronnie being alive, obviously her dead husband being alive. And Caitlin breaks up with Marcus because of all that. Bear questions why Ronnie didn't reappear after all these years ago. 8 years he's been dead. Why the hell didn't he appear? I'm so glad they brought this up. Because I mentioned, I think in my last video, when I was talking about if this flame really is Ronnie, or if it's playing Caitlin. If it is Ronnie, why the hell didn't he show up 7 or 8 years ago after he died? Why wait all these years? So I'm glad they brought that up. And if this wasn't a little hint to you that this might not be Ronnie, you've been paying attention. But that was another thing that should be going through everyone's heads. Okay, if this is Ronnie, why didn't he show up? He would have instantly shown up if that was Ronnie. So Barry was in the 100% right here. To me, at least. Then it was mentioned that it's been 24 hours since the last episode, as I mentioned earlier. It's been 24 hours. Frost mentions Iris again, that if there was a dangerous opportunity to stop the time sickness, Barry would do it, which he would. We all know he would, to save Iris. And it's not the first time they brought up Barry and Iris. Barry crossing the line to save Iris, not specifically killing, but crossing some form of line, putting innocents in danger to save Iris. And now he's criticizing Caitlin for doing the same thing. I see where they're coming from, but it's a completely different thing from Iris and Ronnie. I mean, Iris could literally, destroy the whole, whatever. But Ronnie is a murderer. He's been nonstop killing people. I mean, if they have a chance to take this thing down, whether it kills Ronnie or not, they should do it. Ronnie's already dead. Period. Like, if they technically kill him again, he can't really die again. He's already dead. Chester is sharing schematics on his stream that he does, and Allegra doesn't think it's a good idea in case someone uses it for evil and becomes a bigger problem. Allegra mentioned her sister dying, and then Allegra mentioned the Blackest Night, which is a black lantern. And I guess we'll find out why in a couple minutes, why that was said. But, or at least on some level, the flame was attacking Cecile psychologically. It was in her head, speaking to her. And Ronnie's trying to get the Caitlin who could hear it, kind of hear it saying to get the Caitlin or whatever. Cecile could sense Ronnie begging them to set him free because the fire's torturing Ronnie in the fire. Caitlin doesn't want to, and at the same time, Cecile could feel that Ronnie wants to die. He doesn't want to be alive in this fire anymore. If Ronnie dies, the fire dies. So, on some level, they could sense that. Caitlin doesn't want to accept that. And Bear mentioned when he went back to try to save his mom from Thawne, and he failed because he didn't see the warning signs. Caitlin's missing all these signs that prove that this thing is not Ronnie and is playing Caitlin. Then we go back to a flashback in 2013 where Caitlin and Ronnie are in Kate's apartment for their anniversary, their 1 year. And then we go back to present day, and Iris wakes up from her time sickness attack thing, and Sue told Tina to stay away, and then Tina comes back in and uses her powers on Iris to, like, phase her out of, like, everything, or, like, make her disappear, missing. I don't know what the hell it is, but she's gone now, apparently, and Tina just left. So, what the hell happened to Iris, we don't know. Now, we do know that Iris won't be in the next 4 episodes, because Candace said she's going to be missing in one of the episodes, and she'll be gone for the next 4. So, we won't be seeing Iris for a while, and this won't be till the end of this story arc. So, Barry's definitely going to be going through some type of hell in the next couple episodes. Barry's going to try to stop the fire using the cold fusion sphere, like the plan was, to trap it permanently and save Ronnie once and for all. Barry's 100% sure that Ronnie would want them to do that if it really is him. If Ronnie rejects the splicer, if this thing rejects it, it's going to cause a massive explosion. So they think it's the best plan to use the sphere instead of the splicer. They're going to use the sphere without putting anyone in danger, because they can do that now. They mentioned at the end of the last episode. Bear knows how it sounds, but he believes it's what Ronnie would want. So they need to follow that. Frost goes tell Caitlin, and Frost is having Caitlin's back. And now we go back to another flashback where Ronnie and Kate are stuck in a snowstorm. Caitlin said that she was going to propose to him on their 1-year anniversary. So they end up both proposing on the spot out in this woods area when it was snowing. And then we go by the present day, and Frost mentions when Ronnie died, Frost was in Caitlin's subconscious all this time, which we knew from season 4, and that she felt Caitlin's grief and anger. And Frost decides to help Caitlin behind Barry's back. Ronnie was telling Caitlin in the beginning of the episode to go to where they got engaged at, because that would be the best place to do it, where they can, do it without anyone getting in harm's way. So we go to this camp, and there's these group of campers telling this ghost story, and the black flame appears. Again, this is around the vicinity of where Ronnie and Caitlin got engaged. This is why they went there. Bear takes Allegra and Cecile to where the flame is, so Allegra and Cecile can help get the campers out, anyone else there that's out. Bear uses the sphere on the flame. The flame is heating up, or the sphere, is heating up fast. And it's actually going to burn Barry's hands at some point, so he doesn't know how long he can hold on to it for. And Chester mentioned that more civilians are moving in fast. We never saw those people, but you would have to believe that there's more people at that camp, which is why I'm glad they mentioned that, because you can't just tell me there's 8 people at that camp. No, there's going to be way more in that area. So they obviously had to get them all out. The entire flame was in the sphere, and it was done. There's no more sphere, everything's done. And then Frost comes in and blasts it out of Barry's hands, and the sphere breaks, and the flame comes back. Caitlin goes up to it. This flame forms from this ice figure thing that looks like Ronnie. You could tell it was Ronnie under it. And Caitlin puts a splicer on Ronnie, and he turns back into Ronnie, and then he passes out, and he's recovering now. We go back to Team Flash and Star Labs. Ronnie's recovering, obviously. There's no more signs of the fire. Nothing. So the plan supposedly worked. Cecile's wondering why she got it so off. Her powers were never this off before, with hearing one thing from Ronnie saying that he didn't want them to use the splicer. He wanted them to use the sphere. But because Caitlin went behind their back, it didn't work out. But Cecile's wondering why her powers are so off, because this is Ronnie. This is, the Ronnie that died. So Cecile's just trying to figure out what the hell went wrong, and if something's going on here that's bigger than what we're actually seeing. Barry's trying to call Iris. Sue goes to Barry that Iris is missing, and Barry's having like a panic attack. I mean, he's like freaking out on the inside that he failed, because he's been down this road several times before, And you can only imagine how he's beating himself up now, with knowing how fast he is, how he should be able to stop everything. The one time he needs to, he's distracted and can't be there for his own wife again. I mean, and I'm not saying that's bad writing, that is good writing, but... And they had a good excuse this time for Barry not being there to save Iris, but... You have to imagine what Barry's going through right now, hearing that. So, then we go back to Star Labs. And it's just Ronnie and supposedly Ronnie in Star Labs. Everyone else left. It's late at night. Ronnie's not in the bed in the recovery room. And there's like this voice telling Caitlin to follow the lights that kept going out. It was like a horror movie in Star Labs, which is what this entire story arc has been. And Caitlin's been hearing this voice telling her to go this way. The voice was Ronnie, and he's in the lounge. And Ronnie mentioned that he is stronger than ever before. And then we find out the flame was never really Ronnie. It's been playing Caitlin's entire time. So Barry was right. Cecile's powers weren't off. They just didn't follow him entirely. And frankly, I think everyone was surprised by that one. Ronnie's death gave this flame life. This flame would not even be here right now if Ronnie didn't die in the singularity. The flame is the singularity. The flame became a life thing because it took Ronnie's body and the singularity, basically combined it into one, and now we have this thing walking around, and he called himself Deathstorm. Now, I don't know much about Deathstorm, but, in the comics, he's in the Blackest Night comics. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Allegra mentioned the Blackest Night. So, this thing is related to the Black Lantern Corps on some level. I don't know the entirety of its history, but Deathstorm is related to the Black Lantern Corps. Whether or not we're going to see that ring, I don't think we actually saw it. I don't even think he has a ring. But this thing is connected to Black Lantern Corps. And then he just went away, I think. And the episode ended there. It was a pretty amazing episode. I don't think really anyone really thought that this thing would just do that. Again, there were several signs pointing towards this episode that I noticed right away. I'm not bragging. I'm simply pointing out that this thing was not Ronnie, like him saying, you need to help save us, save them, like more than one thing being in that flame, or it being something else. Like, that's not how Ronnie would talk. Ronnie wouldn't just say that. Like, there's no way this thing was Ronnie from the get-go. I truly believe that if this thing is something, I think it did take Ronnie's body and it is Ronnie, but it's everything that Ronnie was, it's just dead. Like, once this thing is beaten and done, if it does return to Ronnie's form, he's gonna die, period. I don't see how, even if this thing still is Ronnie, it could ever come back. So now we're dealing with the actual threat of this graphic novel, which is the flame, but now we have a name for it, just Deathstorm, and I plan on talking about that tomorrow or the day after, because we got some news for the rest of this season, into season 9, that I'll be talking about in a later video this week, either one Thursday night or Friday. I don't entirely know yet, but I guess we'll play as it goes. So, thank you for watching. I really enjoyed the episode. Leave in the comments down below what you thought about the episode as well. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day. Have a good night. Like, comment, subscribe, notifications on. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye, guys.